Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Welcome to the 7th lesson of the Simplified Tajweed series, which is a series of Tajweed lessons introduced by Quran University uniquely designed Quran learning management system with the purpose of introducing Tajweed in a modern and easy approach. Through this series of lessons, you'll be introduced to Tajweed rules using a unique, modern, and innovative approach to teach Tajweed, utilizing the color codes of Mushaf al-Tajweed as a common denominator to link between those lessons and Tajweed rules. With such approach, we aim to make the understanding of Tajweed rules much easier and help you to practically apply those rules while reading the Quran. This lesson would be about the rules of starting Quran recitation, seeking refuge with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from Shaitan Rajim, and Basmala, which means Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In Arabic, we call it Al-Isti'adatu wal-Basmala. We'll start the lesson by defining our objectives, where at the end of this lesson you'll be able to understand the meaning of seeking refuge, At-Ta'awudh, and the meaning of Basmala. Then, we're going to learn the rules of starting Quran recitation, what we call Ahkamul Ibtida', which is in reality both At-Ta'awudh and Basmala rules. Then, we realize the effect of location of starting the recitation, where we'll be able to differentiate the fresh start at the beginning of the surah from the case where we start at the middle of the surah, and the case where we read through the end of the surah continuing into the following one. Then, we'll also realize the effect of interruption of recitation, differentiating the rules for the long break versus those of the short pause. First, we'll define Al-Isti'ada. Al-Isti'ada means seeking refuge, and it means saying the sentence أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, which means I seek refuge in Allah from the cursed shaitan, Satan. While Basmala means saying the sentence Bismillahi ar-Rahmanir Rahim, which means in the name of Allah, the entirely merciful, the most compassionate. Now those two sentences, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم and Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, are called Isti'ada and Basmala, or Ta'awudh and Basmala. And you should start with these two before reciting Quran. In some cases, you should have the two together. In other cases, one is enough, while in other situations, neither is necessary. So let us get to know those different cases. There are 4 cases. The first case, where we start opening the Mus'haf with the intention of reading the Quran, and you want to start your recitation, your qira'ah, your tilawa, from the beginning of a surah. So this is the case where you start to recite the Quran from the beginning of the surah, or at resuming a previously discontinued recitation with a long break. I've left Quran for 1 hour, 2 hours, then I came back to read. This is considered a long break. So what's the rule in such a case? What's the hukum? The rule is that you start with Isti'adha, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, then followed immediately by Basmala, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So we say, before starting the Qira'at al-Surah, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم طه ما أنزلنا عليك القرآن لتشقى, and so on. So the reader should start to begin to seek refuge, Isti'ada, then it will be followed by Basmala. In the second scenario, you are starting to read Quran, but not from the beginning of the surah, but from somewhere below the beginning, middle of the surah, for example. So in this case, starting to recite Quran from the middle of the surah, or at resuming previously discontinued recitation with a long break. In those cases, the hukum, the rule is to perform Isti'adha, and that's the most important thing, but then the Basmala is optional. You can do Basmala or you might not do it, but you must always do Isti'adha. So basically, the reader should begin to seek refuge in Allah by Isti'adha from Shaitan Rajim, then it should be followed by optional Basmala. So whether you do Basmala or leave it, it's up to you. The third scenario is basically when you are having a momentary break. You are reading Quran, you stop to taking breath, and then you continue immediately. In that case, there is no need for neither. You don't need to do isti'adha, nor you need to do basmala. The fourth case or fourth scenario is a case in which you finish reading a surah and then you immediately, without a break, continue to read the following surah. So basically the fourth case is you have been reading continuously till the end of the surah is reached, and now you want to start the following surah. In that case, the hukum is basmala only, no need for isti'adha. The reader should begin the next surah with basmala and no need for isti'adha. And in this one page, we summarize all the isti'adha and basmala rules. If you initiate reading the Quran, at the beginning of the surah, there is isti'adha followed by basmala. If we start at the middle of the surah, isti'adha, basmala is optional. If you resume after a momentary pause, neither is needed. If you finish the first surah and proceed, continuing the reading through the beginning of the following surah, then only basmala is needed. I'll provide you with a summary of the summary by simplifying the concept in 2 sentences. Isti'adha is always triggered by the starting, the initiation of recitation, as in the first 2 cases, regardless whether you start the reading at the beginning or at the middle of the surah. Isti'adha should always be there. While on the other hand, basmala is always linked to the start of the beginning of surahs, as we have shown in the first and the fourth case. In simple words, in 2 sentences, initiating the reading should be accompanied by isti'adha. The beginning of surahs should be accompanied with basmala. With these 2 golden rules, we can understand all the cases. In here, there is an initiation of the recitation, and that's why there is an isti'adha, and it was at the beginning of the surah, and that's why basmala is needed. In the second case, on the other hand, we are initiating recitation. This is why there is isti'adha according to the rule. But since it is not the beginning of the surah, it's the middle of the surah, basmala was optional. Now, in the third case, it was neither an initiation, it was more of a resumption after a very short pause, continuing a previously initiated recitation, so there is no isti'adha, and it was not at the beginning of the surah, so there was no need for basmala. Now, in the last case, there was no initiation of reading, it was a continuous reading, but it was the beginning of the following surah, that's why there was only basmala and no isti'adha. That brings us to the end of this lesson, where we recap what we have learned through this lesson. We learned about the rules of starting Quran recitation, ahkam al-ibtida, and the meaning of seeking refuge, ta'awudh, and basmala. Then we learned about the effect of location on such start rules, differentiating fresh start at the beginning of the surah versus starting at the middle versus reading through an end of a surah continuing into the following one. Then we learned about the effect of interruption of recitation on the start rules, differentiating the effect of a long break versus a short pause. As we reach the end, we ask Al-Mawla Azza wa Jal أن يتقبل منا هذا العمل. We ask Allah Almighty to accept this work from us, and we ask you to make dua for those who participated in making this work come to life and reach you. Hoping you all the best. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that بعونه وقدرته that the Quran Learning Management System برنامج الجامع لحفظة كتاب الله would help you inshallah to improve your Tajweed and improve your Tilawa and help you in improving your recitation and help you if you want in memorizing the Quran and to help you understand the Quran in the proper way.